Breaking news. General Tadesse Warada, commander for Tigray's armed forces, says Tigrayan forces conducted a major counter-attack, taking control of the strategic terrain in Chifra in Afar. Hello and welcome. This is Tigray Television. I'm Sablor Lama with the news for today. Now the breaking news in detail. General Tadesse Warada, commander for Tigray's armed forces, says Tigrayan forces conducted a major counter-attack, taking control of the strategic terrain of Chifra in Afar. Ethiopian National Defense Forces and Amhara militia launched a 7-day offensive that lasted from October 17th to 15th of October on 4 fronts in an attempt to re-invade Tigray. The commander says Tigrayan forces were able to devastate over 70% of the forces that participated in the battle. In a statement made earlier this week, the government condemned the latest offensive launched by the Abiy Ahmed's government, despite repeated appeal by the international community as well as the government of Tigray to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The statement reiterated the government's commitment to a peaceful resolution to the conflict and secure status quo ante, in which all invading forces, primarily the Amhara militia and the Eritrean troops, withdraw from all constitutionally established territories of Tigray, as well as to end the inhumane siege on Tigray. The statement called for international community to condemn the last offensive and support the people of Tigray in their hour of need by going beyond rhetorical condemnation and take meaningful actions on the Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Amhara regional governments to compel them from their genocidal project and to ensure the delivery of much-needed aid into the region. OCHA says the number of children admitted into hospitals for severe malnutrition has doubled, as 18,000 children under the age of 5 in Tigray have been admitted for treatment between February and August of 2021. This, in light of the complete collapse of Tigray's health system, has significantly reduced the reach of healthcare for millions across Tigray. Wintaki Dana has more.
The UN Humanitarian Coordination Office, in its weekly report on the humanitarian crisis in Tigray, states that 18,600 children under the age of 5 in Tigray have been admitted for treatment for severe acute malnutrition from February to August this year, compared to 8,900 in 2020, a 100% increase according to UNICEF. The report said that malnutrition among pregnant women and lactating mothers also continues to be high at about 63%, while noting that only 897 aid trucks have reached Tigray since mid-July, about 14% of the estimated need. In addition to food, the region is desperately short of medication and medical equipment, which the UN has noted in several recent reports. The recent edition states 9 trucks carrying medicines are awaiting approval to travel to Tigray from Afar, currently the only functional humanitarian corridor into Tigray. Polio vaccines are needed for 887,000 children, and measles vaccines are needed for 790,000 children. The report said failing to administer the shots will result in outbreak, while WHO states that over 200,000 children in Tigray have gone without vaccination in the past year. This means that the life of newborns and children under age of 5 are at high risk to infectious diseases and long-term disability like blindness, deafness, and others.
For the past 4 months, medical supplies have been prevented from reaching Tigray, weakening an already collapsed health system that has seen over 80% of its facilities destroyed. Now, experts in healthcare say that vaccines have completely run out of stock in Tigray, endangering the lives of millions. Abraha Gabratinsai has more on this.
Tigray's health system was one of the leading health systems in the developing world, significantly reducing maternal and infant mortality. Effective vaccination for newborns and children played a significant role in the reduction of mortality rate for children. But for the past 4 months, vaccines and other medical supplies have been prevented from reaching Tigray, endangering the lives of millions of children across Tigray. Dr. Ria Isaias, deputy head of Tigray Health Bureau, also stated that part of the genocide in Tigray is preventing children and thereby making them vulnerable to different illnesses in the future.
بحمام زلمسه أكلاون سنأمراون عبيتو استغود.
We have completely run out of vaccines, and we have reached a point where we can provide vaccine to children. The enemies of Tigray are bringing into fruition their vision of an entire generation that's lagging behind both mentally and physically. They are implementing their short, medium, and long-term plan to extinguish the people of Tigray simultaneously. This is why they are denying us vaccines.
In addition, data from the Bureau of Health reveals that the health of newborns and children has declined dramatically over the past 12 months amid the war in Tigray. The report on newborns and child health has shown a decrease of performance rate to 30% on average. The report highlighted security concerns, deaths, abuses and displacements of health workers, vandalized, looted health offices, interruptions of electric power as reasons for the decline. The factors also include movement restrictions and blockages of roads from place to place during the past 8 months within Tigray. According to WHO report, over 200,000 children in Tigray have gone without vaccine in the past year. This means the lives of newborns and children under 5 years are at risk, as they are prone to infectious diseases that lead to a high rate of mortality and long-term disability like blindness, deafness and others.
The conflict has devastated Tigray's healthcare system, and no supplies of medicine have been allowed into the region since July.
According to WHO report, over 200,000 children in Tigray have gone without vaccine in the past year. This means the lives of newborns and children under 5 years are at risk, as they are prone to infectious diseases that lead to a high rate of mortality and long-term disability like blindness, deafness and others. Either referral hospital is also among the health facilities that have gone short of vaccines. Dr. Kibrom Gebreselassie, medical director at the hospital, says the complete blockade of humanitarian aid to Tigray also denied vaccinations to newly born babies and children. He adds vaccines are out of reach across the entire Tigray.
The newly born babies need to get vaccination in the hospital, and other children are expected to take vaccines periodically. However, vaccines to children has stopped across the entire Tigray. Drugs that need to stay in the refrigerator are spoiled because of the blockage of electricity and fuel to Tigray. Others are used up.
Amnesty International and other human rights groups have extensively documented the use of rape as a weapon of war in the conflict of Tigray. Now, as the security situation improves in Tigray, the harrowing stories of sexual violence are coming out. Now for the details. In a 39-page report titled, "I Don't Know If They Realized I Was a Person," Amnesty International made a detailed account of sexual assault committed on Tigrayan women by Ethiopian, Eritrean forces as well as Amhara militia. The report highlighted the use of shocking levels of brutality during sexual assaults, including beatings and death threats and ethnic slurs. The type of rape that goes beyond sexual assault to humiliate survivors, in some cases to destroy their reproductive abilities, is an indicator of the use of rape as a weapon of war. Sister Letai is 70 years old. She says she was preparing to go to church when the Ethiopian soldiers arrived at her doorsteps to rape her.
When he first came into the house, I pleaded with him. I told him I was a nun, to leave me be. But he didn't care to listen. He told me that he doesn't care. Then he put a knife on my neck and threatened me. I fought as hard as I could, but at last he forcefully raped me. Even after that, they didn't stop. The soldiers and his colleagues went to my neighbor's house and raped her too.
It was an hour past midnight when the soldiers knocked at the door. We refused to answer the door. They just kept on yelling at us. And then he started to shoot at the door, let himself in. He told me that he will kill me if I refused. I told him to kill me as I was staring at my son. Finally, he raped me in my bed in front of my children and mother. My mother can't hear a thing after that. She became deaf.
The women say the rape included physical violence and humiliation, clearly demonstrating that this was not just an act of sexual violence, but the planned and systematic use of rape as a weapon of war.
I am a religious woman. I have kept myself from any sexual activities all my life, but I was forcefully raped by soldier. It is diabolical.
What they did is obscenity. We are humans just like them, but they were acting like beasts. We didn't deserve what happened to us.
Many of the reports by human rights groups and media indicate that sexual violence increased in the second half of the conflict, with Ethiopia and Eritrean forces committed brutal rapes that included gang rape, violence, and sexual slavery. According to the UN, over 18,000 children under the age of 5 in Tigray have already been admitted to hospital for severe acute malnutrition. Our reporters were on the ground in Adwa Central Zone of Tigray to observe how children have been affected by the crisis. Aragay Gabra Mikhail.
This is Kidanamrat Hospital in Adwa, in the central zone of Tigray, one of the high-risk areas for famine. It is currently treating dozens of children suffering from acute malnutrition. Dr. Mabel Tasfai is one of the doctors in the hospital. He has to say this about the crisis in the hospital.
If you look here, this is Hiab. She's one of the children suffering from malnutrition. This was caused because her mother was suffering from malnutrition when she was pregnant with her. Her mother didn't receive the care she needed when she was pregnant. So Hiab was born underweight, almost below 2,000 grams. Hiab should have been able to suck milk at this age, but that's impossible for her because she's suffering from malnutrition and pneumonia.
Residents of Adwa say that the Eritrean soldiers not only killed and raped residents but also slaughtered livestock and destroyed property.
The Eritrean soldiers were abusing the residents. My husband came here after witnessing the massacres in western Tigray, but was killed here by Eritrean soldiers. They also killed my father. When they left here on the 14th of April, they killed my brother too. They killed 3 men of my family. They also slaughtered our livestock and burned our crops. Now we are starving and our children are denied their health and well-being as the health facilities are destroyed. I brought him here on the second day. He was having difficulty breathing on his own. He's hungry. Since banking services are closed, we are not able to use our savings to help ourselves.
Dr. Mabel from Kidanamrat Hospital says that the high rate of malnutrition for children will have long-term consequences both for the children as well as the community.
For example, the Hospital of Kidanamrat Adwa is a charity organization, and it is helping by treating children with malnutrition. So everyone should support organizations like this and others like it, so Tigray's future is not put at risk.
The UN says that over 18,000 children under the age of 5 in Tigray have been admitted for treatment for severe acute malnutrition between February and August, showing a 100% increase for the same time last year.
Cities across Tigray are filled with thousands of IDPs displaced from different parts of Tigray, but especially western Tigray, where militia from Amhara and Fano vigilante group committed ethnic cleansing, displacing over 1 million people. Some 603,000 IDPs are now currently sheltering in Shira. 5 holds the city's population before the conflict. Our reporters were on Shira to observe the condition of IDPs in the city. Abil Tigabo reports.
Letairusom and Kase Asfa are residents of Western Tigray zone. They left their homes a week after the war broke out, leaving behind all their property.
We left home on November 8. We left all our livestock and crops. We crossed the Kaza River. We stayed in Mahansa till February when large displacement started again. After that, we all came to Shura together. We didn't even bring our clothes. The residents of Shura gave me what I'm wearing now.
We've been in crisis since November of 2020. We didn't bring anything with us. We have nothing. Abiy's forces and the Amhara militias invaded us. They looted our property. We got some support in April, but nothing since then. No medical support. The situation is very difficult. Even after the Ethiopian forces took hold of our hometown, we stayed there for a while. One day, they came in the middle of the night and told us that either we have to leave or they will slaughter us. So we had to leave and come here.
The IDPs say that the humanitarian condition has significantly worsened as the siege has continued to tighten.
Most women here came without clothes. We didn't get humanitarian aids either. The most dangerous case here is the health problem. There are some people here with serious disease. There are also separate children here. We lost 7 children and 5 elders due to the lack of medication.
The community here used to support us, but now they themselves have nothing to eat. But we are grateful there is a culture of supporting one another. The residents do what they can. The people of Tigray have survived many challenging times. I'm sure we'll survive this too. I call on the world to understand about the hardships we are facing now. Do what it can to help.
The head of the socio-economic affairs for the western zone of Tigray, Ato Adan Abbay, has to say about the crisis in the IDP camp.
The IDPs are not getting any support. There are also communicable disease. There is no food or medical supplies. Consequently, people are dying. All are suffering, especially children and the elderly.
According to the data from the UN, Qolatamben is one of the areas in urgent need of food aid. Just one of the dozens waradas across Tigray where many are suffering due to lack of food aid and medical care. Aragawi Gabra Mikhail has a report on this.
Abrahat Hagos and Turuna Gabramedin are residents of district of Yager in Qolatamben, where Ethiopian and Eritrean forces looted food crops and destroyed much of their property.
We have to flee to the woods to save our lives, but nothing was left for us when we came back. Our food, everything we owned was looted. They even took all the plastic containers we used to preserve water with. So now we are so thirsty. We have no money to buy back the properties that were looted. We don't even have money to buy food.
The siege that's now on its 4th month has meant that families like Abrat and Trona, who have had their food and properties looted or destroyed, will not be able to get any food assistance.
All our belongings were looted. The inventors left us with nothing and we were unable to replace what we lost because we have no money to buy anything.
The siege that's now on its 4th month has meant that families like Abrat and Trona, who have had their food and properties looted or destroyed, will not be able to get any food assistance.
Formerly, we were able to sustain our lives with the aid that we received from the donors. But there is no more aid now. We are in a life or death situation. Everyone in this district is starving now.
Due to the damage that's occurred by the invaders, the residents of Qolatamben, mainly the residents of district of Yaker, are exposed to disease and different kinds of illness. For this reason, the residents call for the governmental and non-governmental organizations to rescue them. Mr. Torona said,
We are in great danger. If the government can't help us, we all are going to die. Look at my body. It's full of acne. I'm not able to wash my body because the price of soap has skyrocketed. Even the wealthy can't afford soap now, so we are dying of hunger and disease. Forget about the dirt. A hungry person couldn't care about his body or his dress, but only of his belly. There are so many problems in this district.
Qolatamben is one of the dozens of waradas across Tigray where aid has not yet able to reach. There are currently over 5.2 million people in Tigray in need of emergency assistance, as nearly 500,000 are facing famine-like conditions.
Following the war declared on Tigray, mass killings, looting of properties in a massive scale, destruction of health facilities and schools were among the atrocities perpetrated by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and their allies. So the Saharti massacre is just one of the many yet to be reported. Haila Gabru has more.
On January 16, 2021, just days after the Shu'at Hugum massacres, Ethiopian soldiers would commit another horrific crime in Saharti district, in the southeastern zone of Tigray. Families of the victims are still horrified, but have found the will to tell their story. This house belongs to priest Berhanu Meselem. He was residing in the locality called Tashi, in the Saharti district. He used to preach for peace and love to prevail among people in his entire life. Priest Berhanu himself his father Milese Gabru, and his father-in-law have been killed savagely by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces.
Abiy Ahmed's troops came to our village. We used to run away before to save our lives. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that when they came that day. We all were gathered at home with my son, brother-in-law, and my husband. They took them out to the mountains and shot them dead. I lost 3 of them. I screamed and yanked my hair until I was hairless. Then soldiers started beating me, saying, "You thief." The bodies of my beloved family were abandoned there for 2 days. We couldn't pick and bury them on time. We took the bodies to our home on the 3rd day. Moreover, they took away our clothes, basic necessities, food stuff, yet they stayed with us. We begged them to leave us alone. However, they couldn't hear us at all. The bodies were buried on Thursday, 4 days after the massacre.
The Medabela is a resident of the Tashi locality in the Sahart district. She has lost her husband, her father-in-law, her brother, her father and her brother-in-law on the same day. They made her mourn and look after her 6 children without their father. She gives her testimony regarding the scenario as follows.
Over 100 military vans came to our village. We couldn't get a chance to escape. We were already encircled. Then we decided to stay home along with our cattle. Later on, they came into our house and ordered us to get out. Few minutes later, they took us a small distance from our house. Eventually, they fired at the victims and killed them. The soldiers looted my husband's clothes and our properties. They also threatened me to make them coffee. However, I said no, because I was keeping the corpse they killed. 6 days later, they have also killed a man whose name was Halafum. Accordingly, we have sent to them elders and priestess having suwa and injera, the local drink and food. Then they gave us the body and we buried him in a church.
Israt is also the other son of massacre in the same district of Saharti. The victim of the Israt locality told to Tigray television that 7 innocent civilians have been slaughtered by the Ethiopian soldiers in a very shocking manner.
7 innocent people have been killed here. Their names were Tesfai Adana, Sultan Haile, Gabriel Sultan, Hailu Menasibo, Priest Adhanom, Kidai Yabiyo, and Priest Abadi. All were my relatives, but my son, brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law's son were the closest ones. They were killed brutally, and we were keeping their bodies for a day long with my husband. Then we shouted for help and managed to bury them at night. My husband is 80, and I'm 70. Now there is no one who can take care of us, so we are leading a difficult life.
The soldiers came home and asked me to hand over a gun, which I didn't have. Then I told them, as I was blind, hence there is no way that I can own gun. My son's name was Hailu Menasibo. He was about 35 to 36 years old. While they were taking him, we didn't think they would kill him. Sadly, we heard them firing gunshots at him and other civilians. At last, we found them dead like this.
Here is what the Ethiopian soldiers did. They have vandalized our houses. They have looted all our properties, foodstuffs, clothes, and jewelry. Their cruelty has no limits.
Salal Gabrahibot is also the other victim of the merciless massacre in Tabia Asrat of the Sahart district at the southeastern zone of Tigray. She has lost her beloved husband and her son. She described the horrific incident like this.
My husband was Sultan Hailu, and my son was Gabriel Sultan. The soldiers have tied them up with a rope and shoot at a point blank.
Mrs. Tamirza has lost her son and her cousin, who was a priest, due to massacre perpetrated by the Ethiopian soldiers and their allies. She remembers the event with a broken heart.
My son was a farmer. He came home to visit us together with the priest. This may happen. However, such barbaric killing is quite terrifying. I wish this couldn't happen to any human being, even to your enemy.
According to Tigray television's investigative report, there are other untold tragedies of massacre in Sahart district. Mr. Zamikhail told the Medhin, a chairperson of the command post of the district of Sahart, wraps up the situation briefly as follows.
The youth and adults aged 18 to 85 years have been killed. Besides, mothers and pregnant women have also been killed. Sexual violence was a common habit of the invading forces. In terms of figures described by the district, over 180 civilians have been killed by the Ethiopian soldiers, and 25 women have been raped by the Eritrean forces. One of them had lost her life due to the pain she sustained. Mothers were forced to keep the bodies of their beloved ones for 5 to 6 days for the fact that the soldiers didn't allow them to bury them on time. The dead have been eaten by hyenas. Other bodies have also been burnt by Ethiopian soldiers in Tashi and Chelli, the tabias found under the administration of Saharti district. Over 3,000 goats and sheep are slaughtered and looted. Over 500 houses have been burnt by the Eritrean forces.
The construction industry is the largest sector in Ethiopia, having shown exponential growth over the past 3 decades with EPRDF-led government over the past expanding infrastructures, connecting cities and expanding social services. The construction industry also employed the highest number of employees in Ethiopia, creating job opportunities across the board. Now the industry has completely stalled operations as banking services and essential inputs remain inaccessible. Not only that, but the construction industry was one of the sectors highly affected by the conflict. Winta Kidana has more on this.
In addition to its instrumental role in expanding infrastructure across the state, the construction industry is one of the largest sectors in Tigray, employing hundreds of thousands of employees across the board and paying billions in taxes.
Construction includes the highway and other related productions like cement factory, building material shop, and local material production from the source. It is one of the biggest infrastructural industries that pays huge amount of tax, withholding and VAT. We used to have a great working environment before the conflict started. I had 10 sites. I was a very busy man. Then the conflict broke out and destroyed all my materials, unfinished buildings and equipments we used for work.
The investors explained that they have completely stopped working and are at a great loss due to the outbreak of the conflict.
100% of my equipment has been destroyed, but that's nothing considering the human cost of this conflict. Generally, I can say the construction industry is 100% destroyed.
That concludes our news for today. See you back here on Tuesday. Until then, have a nice time.